Hello and welcome back to the Mighty Chaos Podcast. I'm your host and storyteller, Therese Hicks, and tonight we'll be getting into the chilling urban legend of the West Virginia Mothman, followed by cozy book talk and random chaos to wrap things up. New here? Grab a snack and blanket. This is our community where spooky stories meet genuine conversations. Now let's get into the story time of the West Virginia Mothman. The Mothman is one of America's most famous cryptozoological legends, first sighted November 15th, 1966, near Pleasant Point, West Virginia. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving past the TNT area when they saw it, a tall man with massive wings and glowing red eyes that burned right through them. Terrified, they sped down Route 62, but the creature kept pace, flying after them at over 100 miles per hour, red eyes locked in their rearview mirror. They lost it in city limits and flagged Deputy Millard Halstead. Both couples were shaken, breathless, terrified. After their story broke, locals shared their own sightings. Many now link Mothman to the Silver Bridge collapse a year later, December 15th, 1967. Where 46 lives were lost. Okay, so let's get into my thoughts on the West Virginia Mothman. So I feel like the Mothman is like a harbinger of death, something to fear, or even just a warning of tragedy. And it's interesting how the couple stories kind of unlock the other people in the town's stories, because it's like they almost felt like scared to kind of admit, oh, we saw this person or we saw this creature, but no one else is probably going to believe what we saw, so we may as well not say anything about it. But then when the couples kind of said, this is what we saw, this is what chased after us while we were in the car speeding away or speeding down the road, it was keeping pace with us. It didn't lose any sweat kind of or just slow down. It kept pace with us the whole time. That people were just like, okay, they reported this, it was in the newspaper, okay, let's say we can now feel comfortable to kind of say our story now. This is what we saw, this is what happened. And then some people have even said they kind of tie him to tragedy, or like or he's foreshadowing something big happening that may be tragic. Like, the Silver Bridge that happened a year after the report on the Mothman. So that was kind of interesting to kind of read about. And then there's people that have kind of, I wonder if, there have been other sightings, at least what I've kind of seen, that people kind of seen them in different states and even different countries. So that kind of makes me wonder if they have their kind of own version of the Mothman, or what they may call it specifically more like in the different countries, because obviously in the States we probably still call it the Mothman, versus like in different countries there may be different urban legends or different names that he may go by, or their own kind of legend about him. So that kind of makes me wonder about that. But also kind of makes me want to investigate more about the Mothman and see if he's actually real or not. Because I know there was this, I didn't really finish it, but there was this video on BuzzFeed, or more so on YouTube, where these two people that worked at BuzzFeed, they kind of went to the town where the West Virginia Mothman is known for, or known in, and they kind of noticed there was a statue of him. There were kind of other, like, you could get plushies, or there's different dishes named after him. So they kind of play into the Mothman urban legend and who he is. So that kind of makes me wonder if they actually believe that he's real, or if they had their own experience with the Mothman. Because I know one of the people they interviewed, they kind of said, oh, this lady, she had a encounter with him when she was with her, I guess, she was trying to protect her kid. She was trying to protect her kid from the Mothman, or interview her, because she had passed already. So they kind of traced the steps of like trying to see where people sighted them. Obviously, the first sighting, they kind of went where the two couples kind of may have seen them, or they were kind of talking about that. I didn't really get to finish it because I was like at the part where they were kind of at the diner kind of explaining what steps, like pretty much the next steps of what they're going to do, or how they planned out this trip. So that was kind of interesting, kind of seeing them kind of do that. But also they're kind of speculating if the people were kind of playing it up versus if they actually believe, like playing it up or actually believing if the Mothman is actually real or not. But I think that's all I have to say about the Mothman. And on a lighter note, let's get into some book talk. So there's no update on the head witch in charge this week, but I will update you guys soon on it. So stay tuned for that. But I will read you guys a list of the books I do want to read this year, or I probably already read so far. So the first we got is Silver Sweet by the Ritchie sisters, and it's a part of a spin-off series that follows the remaining Cobalt siblings. And the first book was Burn Bright, which followed Ben, the sixth Cobalt kid, and Silver Sweet follows one of his older brothers. So the fifth oldest, Tom, in his book. And honestly, I'm happy to kind of read his book or get to read it this summer. So I'm really happy about reading his book and what that's gonna entail. But also I'm kind of stoked to kind of read his older brother, so the fourth oldest, Elliot's book. But I'm kind of scared because in the last series, or the last book in the other series, the Leica series, they kind of had like a psychic kind of read their fortunes, and his was kind of sad, but ominous in a sense, because it was kind of vague. But if you kind of read the series, you pick up on, okay, maybe his book is not going to be good, because he is a drama person. He likes to do drama in theater. So she kind of quoted something from, I think, Romeo and Juliet. And as we know, it's kind of like a tragic story. So it kind of entails that his story is not going to be as like happy at first, or as like it goes on, it's probably not going to be like the best kind of like happy story at first. It's probably going to be a more sadder book. Then they're probably all going to be like a bit sad or have some sadness in it, honestly. But I think his book's going to be really sad, honestly, and it's kind of scaring me a little bit for him. But I am kind of really happy about Tom's book, and I'll probably get into some theories with you guys about what I think may happen in the book, so stay tuned for that. But the next book is The Gilded Blade by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the last book in the Grandest Game series, and I really need to finish The Glorious Rivals, because I was about 10 or 12 chapters left in it. Well, I had about 10 or 12 chapters left in it, to be honest with you. But I do wish we kind of got a point of views from some of the characters, like Nash, Xander, Rebecca, and Livy, and Max, because I genuinely wanted to know what they were thinking in the Inherent Game series, because I know there had been some points where they kind of really did question what was going on throughout the books, like the events that were happening, or it just kind of seemed wild to them. I know it had to have been crazy for them, kind of either living through those experiences or kind of just being there as side characters, but I know they kind of had been like questioning things a lot most of the time, honestly. But I will say the final book for now, because there are more. I did read this one already. It's called Masquerade, which was the last book of the Night and Daywalker series, and it follows Flynn, who is a private investigator, and he thinks he's human, but he isn't. And his mother is a vampire, or she's the senator of all the vampires in California, and she kind of brings this day vampire in to kind of work with Flint at his investigative firm, and they end up becoming partners and working together. And Flint also talks to animals, so he's also a cat dad, because he saved a kitten that got hurt, but it's also kind of like a panther, or like a black it's like a Black Panther. And her name, it's not it. She's a Black Panther, and her name is Plot Twist, but she has like a long name. But when she kind of talks, at least in the book, it's kind of hilarious, because she kind of speaks like a Victorian child, and it's kind of hilarious, but it's hilarious because he's just generally just kind of staring at her like, why are you kind of talking like that? That sounds like old English, or how you kind of speak in the 1800s, and it's hilarious. But he grows to he already loves her. He likes animals because he can communicate with them. And he has like a friend. He has a friend that's a raven, when he had a situation when he was like a kid, he would kind of always go to the Raven for advice, and she would always give him advice. So that was like his friend as a kid, and he would kind of always give her food every time when he visited his mother, every time he visited his mother's house, or when he was just kind of like growing up. But I liked that book. It was a good book. I do wish it had at least 2 more books in the series, or at least a few more chapters in it, because there was a few things they could have kind of went over more in the book, but I loved it. The book is by Sam Burns, so you should check out the book. But again, if you guys have any book recs that are cozy paranormal romances, or any kind of contemporary romances, science fiction, science fiction, because as I said before, I am a picky reader and I do not want to read any heavy kind of topic books. But if you want updates on what I'm reading, let me know and comment below on what you guys are reading, or what you may want me to read next or update you next about. And that's the end of book talk. Okay, so let's get into some random chaos. So lately, I have been feeling like I'm not a good writer or journalist, because I know my style has changed as I've kind of been at OU, or in general. Like, my writing has really improved and I'm proud about that. But it is kind of like hard to kind of feel confident about being a journalist and a writer at the same time, because I have no experience with kind of like job experience at all, or I haven't really got much of internships or any internships at all. So it kind of makes me feel behind at times than my peers. And I know some of them probably are in the same boat as me, that may not have as much published work out or any job experience, or haven't got any internships, but it kind of feels not great because I'm about to graduate and it's going to be hard to find a job. Which, I mean, there are some people that I've noticed like that do have a lot of experience here, or have like a lot of things out, but they are having trouble getting a job as well. So I'm not the only one in the same boat. And I kind of sometimes, like, it's just, you feel like you're the only person kind of struggling at times, but that's not the case. And I've kind of I've kind of starting to realize, like, okay, I'm not the only one that's burnt out or feeling imposter syndrome or anything like that, because other people are probably in the same boat as me and feeling the same exact way as I am. And it's like, honestly, I do want to have more job experiences and internship experiences, but I'm like so hyper focused on like getting college done, or school in general, and I've always been like that. So like staying hyper focused about school and getting things done, versus like, okay, I can also have a job too. I work like kind of like this, like I have to get focused on one thing. I can do multiple things at once, but it's just like with this specifically, it's like I can only focus on one thing specifically, work or school, or just school or work. And I've always focused more on school so I can just graduate, and that's been my main focus. So I haven't really got to participate in any kind of organizations, or wasn't really kind of informed about them. And if I was, it was kind of like I was always drained or burnt out from classes. So it kind of took a lot out of me. So I couldn't really be like, oh, let me do this. But I did get experience at the daily, at least for my practicum last semester, and I got a few things out. But I would have liked to get out more, but as I've said, these last 2 semesters have been really hard on me, and they kind of really brought out the burnout and just a lot going on in my mind. So that has been like one of the struggles for me, is like mental health, and kind of the kind of pressure of like getting class done and graduating and just finding a job or internship. It's just that kind of constant thing, because I feel like we're kind of pressured to kind of be or get a job after we graduate, or feel like we have to get a job after graduating. And I do hate that kind of expectation, but it's still, well, it's like an expectation, like we feel like in society at least, or society kind of puts like we should have a job after we graduate college and be able to kind of do this after college. But I noticed like some people are like, in my major specifically, or even the other ones within Gaylord, have been like, after we graduate, we're not going to do writing for a bit because we are burnt out. And we kind of had like an audience with the deans in Gaylord and the other day, and people were kind of voicing what they kind of wish they kind of did better, or what they kind of did better. I mean, what they did good and what they need to improve on. And there were a lot of different answers, but like people were like, they're having to do this and that and like help the other people that are like freshmen and sophomore with doing certain jobs within the organizations, at least within Gaylord. And the people that are graduating don't even have like as much kind of experience, because they're kind of like, we've been taught this one position, but like we only know so much about this. So that's what's been interesting about that, like hearing different people's perspectives and kind of being like, okay, so it's everyone that's kind of feeling it now. Like they're kind of feeling the burnout, they're kind of feeling the stress and kind of having to get this done or get this edited and make sure everything looks polished so recruiters for different jobs can kind of hire us, so we don't just not have a job when we graduate, or we're still kind of looking for jobs and internships, and we're kind of crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. But I know personally, like, what also has been kind of difficult is balancing the classes, because I did do an 8-week course and I finished that. It was an interesting course, but it had its challenges as well. But that kind of leaves me now with 4 Gaylord classes, at least this semester, and then the history class in the summer. But these, obviously, when it's like a course in your major or in your minor, it's kind of hard to kind of balance those, even if you may be good at a certain subject. It's still like, if it's a 4-week course, it's kind of fast paced, even 8-week. But in my opinion, 8-week is kind of better than 4 weeks. And that's what I kind of have to do with that history class over the summer, is it's going to be more fast paced and it's going to be a lot for me. And I already know it is. It's going to stress me out even more to kind of get things done, because it's a higher division history class. And I already know I have to write a 10-page paper. But when it's specifically a class that's your major, it's hard. It's harder, and it feels like all the courses kind of double times 2 with the work, especially if you're not taking just like 1 or 2 Gaylord classes, but you're taking 4. And I know personally I was going to take my history class this semester, but when I saw like the 2 big papers, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to have to move it over to the summer, because that's going to work better for me and it's going to stress me out a little bit less or more, because it's 4-week. But I'll feel more kind of a relief, because it's not just like a lot of classes and I'm not taking like 18 hours or just like a lot of different hours that's going to stress me out. And I'm already feeling tired and burned out as it is. But I've kind of learned to kind of like balance that, like by just taking a break, or kind of try to take a break at least, or try to get the assignments done that are kind of more easier and not as high pressure, and kind of balancing that, because we are kind of in the crunch time at this point, where it's like dead week next week. And it is kind of looking like it's going to be stressful for everyone, and everyone's going to feel it this semester, but especially next week, as it is dead week, and we're all going to be stressed out, because either there are some finals that week or the week after, and everyone's going to be drained after that for sure. But I think that's all for Random Chaos this week. And that has been your Cozy Chaos, as we first talked about the Mothman, moved into some book hype, before ending on journalism doubts and a bit of high stress from the semester. But if you felt at home, follow on Spotify for monthly and sometimes weekly episodes. Email your paranormal stories, legends, and book recs and chaos moments at themightychaospodcast@gmail.com, because your voice belongs here. And this has been your host, Therese Hicks, signing off from the Mighty Chaos Podcast. Stay curious and cozy, and tune in next week for the Seven Sisters Road.